Alright, what's going on, guys? Trev back again, here to bring you another video. This one's going to be doing a video talking about Marvel versus DC at the movies. Okay, so this is a viewer requested topic. I want to thank you, the person who submitted it to me, as I do a video discussing my thoughts on the recent Marvel and DC movies, which universe I preferred at the movies, and just kind of generally give my thoughts about it. So, in terms of comic book movies, they're my favorite type of movies. I look forward to comic book movies very much. Obviously, I like to read comic books, collect action figures for comic book characters, watch direct-to-DVD releases of the DC animated universe, and watch the cartoons that are on pretty much every weekend. Right now, Beware the Batman and the new Avengers cartoon. Hulk Agents of Smash is starting soon, so that should be pretty cool to check out. But with regards to the live-action movie universe, which do I prefer? Which do I think is better, and why? So I think this is an interesting topic, seeing as how comic book movies have become such a huge genre in and of themselves. I mean, back in the day, 10 or 15 years ago, it was really rare that we would get, a comic book movie at the theaters. There weren't very many. I mean, you had in the 90s, your Turtles. There was Batman, but a lot of these other characters, for example, all of the Avengers did not get any movies themselves. And nowadays, with Disney buying out Marvel, and even before that, I like that Marvel and DC have decided, let's pump out some more movies and make even more. Well, DC, maybe what I just said only applies to Marvel, because DC was kind of always making Batman, and then they're starting to do Superman, or they're trying to continue to do Superman again. But definitely Marvel has stepped up their game in terms of the amount of characters that are getting their own movies nowadays, and I like that very much. I mean, to the point where we're going to be getting a Guardians of the Galaxy movie. I've never even read a Guardians of the Galaxy comic book, and I've been reading comics pretty much my whole life. Thor gets 2 movies. Iron Man gets 3 movies. The Avengers team, with all the Avengers coming together in a movie, and have all the characters meet and everything. Captain America, 2 movies for him already. Lots planned in the future. Ant-Man movie. 2 Incredible Hulk movies. I mean, crazy the amount of characters and the amount of movies. Of course, the X-Men universe, you can't forget about that. And the 3 X-Men movies, Days of Future Past next year, and the 2 Wolverine movies, so you're at 7 for the X-Men right there. So obviously, when you start thinking about it and you compare Marvel to DC in terms of the amount, you start to see the drastic difference in terms of quantity. So definitely when it comes to quantity these days anyway, Marvel takes that one absolutely no contest. And that's important because these universes, Marvel and DC, they're so deep, they're so dense with characters and stories and, just literature from all the years of the book releases, the video games, the movies, all these different types of things. There's plenty to draw from. If they decide to make a movie, like they could say, oh, we're going to make a Batman movie in 2017, and they might not even have an idea for what they want to do with it. They may just okay, let's set the date then, and let's get a writer to work on it, go through it, and they could go through the last 60 years of books and just pick something out and put it out there. So there's a lot of potential for different characters and even teams to get their own movies nowadays. And I like that Marvel has picked up on that and realized, hey, wait a minute, we've got the Avengers, we've got Thor, we've got Cap, Iron Man, the Hulk. Why are we not making movies for all these? They're great characters. They've got so many stories. We can pick and choose what we want from all these stories and put out some really cool, fun movies. Of course, Sony has the rights to Spider-Man, so they can't really mess with that. But since Spider-Man's a Marvel character, let's count those 2. The Spider-Man movies are in there as well. Fox with X-Men. Lots of X-Men movies, which as of late have been really good, I think, compared to how X3 ended and everything like that was kind of a disaster. But yeah, definitely with regards to quantity, Marvel wins that battle right there. In terms of quality, okay, Well, I mean, you got to factor in the fact that Marvel is producing so many that their business model, I think, purposefully is much different from the DC model. DC, when they make, a movie like, for example, your Man of Steel, your Dark Knight trilogy, your Superman versus Batman, or some people want to call it Man of Steel 2, whatever they end up giving the actual title, it's basically Batman versus Superman, the Dark Knight Returns story, and that'll be coming out in 2015, as long as nothing falls through or whatever the case may be. Hopefully it comes out. Talks of the Justice League movies all those years, and still we don't have an official date or anything or announcement or script or anything of the sort for a Justice League movie, but at least we're getting a Batman versus Superman movie. That's a good thing. So that's cool, but it really seems like with them, they concentrate more, I think, on quality than they do quantity. So instead of doing like an individual Justice League character movie for each character, where they did do Green Lantern, we can't forget about that. But instead of doing like a Flash movie and a Wonder Woman movie and maybe Martian Manhunter, I don't think can justify his own movie. There's the DC Dark Universe movie coming out, isn't there? I think so. So they're starting to get there, but definitely they're not producing as many. But their quality has been really good. Man of Steel, amazing quality. I don't think even people that didn't like the movie, okay, fine, but I think you do have to admit that it was very well done, and the quality of the movie was amazing. I don't really think you can compare The Wolverine to Man of Steel or Iron Man 3 to Man of Steel. I mean, some people may like either of those movies better than Man of Steel, but I think you have to agree that in terms of the quality and the work they put into it and everything like that, that definitely Man of Steel, it's clear that DC took it more seriously and really tried their best to make a very good quality movie versus putting out lots of different ones where Marvel you'll have, your Iron Man, and you'll have Cap, Winter Soldier, and you'll have another Thor, The Dark World, all these different movies and then another Avengers after. It seems to me pretty evident that Marvel's business model is just to pump out tons of different movies, not necessarily try to make any of them, Oscar-worthy or really that good in terms of quality, but just to pump out lots of movies. I don't have a problem with that. A lot of them end up being popcorn flicks, I think. Well, a lot of comic book movies do, but especially the Marvel ones just end up being fun, action, sci-fi adventure type stories in the movie form. Whereas you have with DC, The Dark Knight with more psychology, the Man of Steel, also taking themselves more seriously and trying to develop, I think, deeper stories and better quality, which I would have to say the Dark Knight trilogy is of another caliber of quality versus, not just because I'm a Batman fan, but I think everybody would agree, those movies took themselves more seriously than most of the Marvel films. They were better done. They were longer. If you compare, for example, Captain America the first one, Captain America, compare that to any of the Dark Knight trilogy or Man of Steel. Do you really think that movie took the same amount of work to create as any of the others? I mean, I don't really think there's an argument here. We can all see, clear as day, that DC is putting in more effort, more budget, more everything, trying to get better actors, better scripts, longer, not just an hour and a half, but 2 hours, sometimes close to 3 hours, 2.5 hours, this kind of stuff, to really make great quality movies, and I love that as well. So if I had to pick one, who wins this versus matchup between which cinematic universe, if I had to go with just one, which would it be? Would it be Marvel or would it be DC? Yeah, it's tough because it's like, comparing quality versus quantity. I love getting lots of different comic book character movies where you have all of the Avengers having their own movies, 2 or maybe 3, 3 of some of them, Iron Man, maybe some of the others too in the future, versus just getting, one really good quality film every, 3 years or so, 2 or 3 years, from DC. Oh, that's, it's tough. I feel like a lot of times when I go see the DC movies, like the Dark Knight trilogy especially, and with Man of Steel, like you're watching an event. Like it's an event on itself when it's released. The advertising, everything is so big. But then on the other hand, we did have the Avengers, which, I mean, that was an event too. Plus all the other movies. So I think maybe in this versus matchup, even though I've enjoyed the Dark Knight trilogy so much, and I thought Man of Steel was amazing, having all of those different movies all tie in together in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and then having the Avengers, which was a huge event, as big or bigger than any of those DC movies, with the exception maybe, well, It and The Dark Knight were probably on the same scale. I think it was ended up doing much better because at the theater than The Dark Knight Rises, if I remember correctly. And Man of Steel 2, I'm pretty sure, because it did like $1.5 billion or something crazy like that when it was all said and done, and the DVD sales for the Avengers and everything. So I think personally, even if it wasn't for the Avengers, I may have to go with DC. But I think the idea of doing the Avengers movie, Avengers 2, producing all of these movies all the time, even though they're not all that deep, psychological, some of them, certain things may be a little cheesy, certain things may not feel, that of the same quality as the DC movies. I still love the fact that they're producing all of this, quantity. Every year you've got new Marvel films. The Avengers 2 will be coming up fairly soon. And they just really have expanded and really started to make tons of movies for those characters. Plus, think about how many. Like, you got X-Men, the next X-Men movie's coming out next year. We had 3 Marvel movies this year. The year before that, there was the Avengers. Winter Soldier will be hitting next year as well. Guardians of the Galaxy. Oh man, this is actually when I start to list them all off. And what has DC got coming out? Just Batman versus Superman. So even as epic as that could be by itself, it could be better than all the other Marvel films. You're still trying to compare like 1 versus like 5 or 6 movies within the next couple of years. So in terms of this versus matchup, I think I'm going to have to go with the Marvel Universe, even though these days I do consider myself as more of a DC fan than a Marvel fan for the most part. They're always close, and I always go back and forth. For a couple years I'll be a bigger Marvel fan. Then I may switch to DC depending on what they're doing. The books and the stories and everything, I kind of switch back and forth a lot of times because I do love both of them. But in terms of the movies, I'm going to have to go with Marvel because they're able to produce this quantity. The quality's still pretty good. It's not bad. Like, none of the movies I would say are fails. They're all pretty good. They're fun. Even Thor: The Dark World looks great too. That'll be fun to see as well. And then, of course, they were able to get the team together to do an Avengers tie-in movie. That was special. I wish DC would stop being so afraid and just do a Justice League movie. We know now that it's not. It was supposed to happen in 2015. It's clearly not happening. They're going to be doing a Batman versus Superman instead. Now, people would say, "Oh, that doesn't mean it's not going to happen." Yeah, but you got to understand, even if it happens in 2017, that's still a fail because it was supposed to happen in 2014 or 2015. If we got to wait till 2017, 2018 for a Justice League movie, okay, it might be great and all that kind of stuff. It's still a fail because at that point, you'll have Marvel have released all these movies and at least 2 Avengers movies, be getting ready probably for a 3rd Avengers movie by the time DC finally does Justice League. So just based on that, Marvel wins this one. That's all I got to say. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed it. The comparison between the Marvel movie universe and the DC movie universe. I think Marvel wins. My opinion. Anyway, I'll call it here. That's it for this video, guys. I'll see you for the next one. This is Trev, and I'm saying peace.